Thank you for joining us in the newsroom. We have a special guest in our studio today, Minister S. Iswaran, who's on a visit to SPH and tour at the newsroom. Minister, welcome to the Straits Times.
Thank you.
Let's jump right in.
Yeah.
What was the first form of media you looked at this morning? Your Facebook feed, TV, or a copy of the ST?
My usual diet, I start with doing a scan of certainly ST and the other local newspapers and feeds, CNA. I do it all on the digital platforms. And then I do a tour of some of the international news feeds as well. So that's the way I like to start my day, both some general news, political news, and financial and economic news. And then, of course, along the day, you get inputs and updates that come our way. And I think you guys do a lot of these SMS or messages that sort of ping us. Yeah.
Okay. How has this sort of media consumption changed since you became MCI Minister?
I don't think it's changed dramatically since I joined the ministry, but I think it has changed dramatically compared to when I first entered politics. I was first elected as an MP in 1997. That was in the last century, before social media, before Facebook and so on. So when you compare that and contrast it with what we have today, it's dramatically different, because there's such a wealth of information available at your fingertip and through all these digital resources. So it's both a boon and a bane. Boon because you're able to get all this information so easily, and it helps to inform your thinking and approach to various matters. But the bane, of course, is that precisely because there's such a wealth of information and so many sources, you do need to sort through it and work out what's real, what's not, and what makes sense and what doesn't.
So from your visit today, what's your sense of how media outlets like SPH are grappling with some of these challenges?
I think all of us are having to make this transition. It's not just media outlets. I mean, when you talk about digitalization, whatever industry, in manufacturing and financial services, they've all had to make this change. Government is making changes in terms of going digital and finding new ways to reach citizens. And I think the media organizations like SPH are making a very strong effort to also adapt to the changing habits of your readers and other stakeholders. And I think it's a very important effort. I know it's not easy, because whether you're a journalist or part of the management and so on, it's really rethinking the way you do things and adapting it to a completely new environment. But I would say, from what I've observed in your new newsroom and the various approaches that you're taking, I think it's a very timely and important response to the changing environment.
Part of this changing environment, coping with digitalization, tech's also part of your portfolio in MCI. Cybersecurity is one area you look after, but you also oversee libraries and IMDA. That's a range of topics, from hacking and all these attacks. Which sector has given you the most trouble so far this year?
Well, I always tell my colleagues jokingly, MCI portfolio tests both your left brain and your right brain, and you have to keep working at it. And from my point of view, I think all of them have been equal opportunity in terms of the challenges they pose and also the interesting possibilities. I mean, cybersecurity for obvious reasons, both opportunity because of the things we're doing internationally, but also the challenges because of some of these attacks that we've seen of late. But the same applies to the media industry because of the changing technology, which is both interesting in terms of what it offers, but the adaptation is the challenge. And the libraries are doing a fantastic job of also changing with the times. So I would say they've been quite equal opportunity in the way they've tested me.
How much of a techie are you personally?
Quite techie. I like to use devices. I've stopped buying CDs and all a long time back. I haven't bought a physical book in a long time because I use Kindles or the Kindle readers. I use digital music players and so on. That's my preferred modality generally.
We understand you're a bit of a music buff as well. What's top of your Spotify list, or some of the songs?
A very omnivorous music diet. I think it depends on the day and my mood and so on, because I listen to a very wide range of music, from Western classical to Indian and Indian classical. I've even been known to listen to some Chinese jazz, and of course pop music and so on over the various decades. So quite omnivorous in my diet. Yeah.
We've got a quick rapid fire round of questions. We're gonna pose two options and ask you to decide who you listen to or watch if it was a choice between. So if it was Rihanna or Rahima Rahim?
Rahima Rahim singing Umbrella. And I hope if Rahima is listening, she will do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chopin or Coldplay?
Coldplay,
Okay.
Viva La Vida. I mean, I think they are quite a interesting band with some classical sensibilities.
Turning to sports, in US Open or EPL?
Definitely EPL, especially after a season like this year. I think you have to say EPL. Yeah.
And last one, in terms of best-selling books, would you read The Outsider or 21 Lessons for the 21st Century?
That's a tough one because I think they're both interesting. But what I will say is maybe the book that caught my eye more recently was a book by a Japanese a young person with autism called The Reason I Jump and so on.
Okay.
And I think I look for books that make me sit back and reflect on issues. It's not always politics or economics. Sometimes it's about life experiences and so on.
Okay. Final question. If there's been a lot in the news lately with the trade war and so on. If you were given the chance to edit your own newspaper or anchor your own program, what would you consider to be the top 3 newsiest items to highlight
This is a
over
tough
the past week?
This is a tough one. I'm not sure I'll sell a lot of newspapers by doing this, but I would say first definitely the US-China tensions and the trade war and its ramifications, because I think it's something that affects the whole world, and certainly for Singapore and Singaporeans, I think is a very important thing to understand. The second thing I would say is the bicentennial experience that we've just had, and I've been through it. It's not officially opened yet. I've had a chance to see it, and I would strongly recommend it to everyone to go and experience, because it's an excellent way of experiencing Singapore's journey, in a sense, not just in the last 200 years but before. And I found some parts of it particularly moving, especially when you're talking about some of the more recent experiences that we've had and so on. So something I would certainly profile. You asked for 3, so the third one would probably be the passing of Niki Lauda. Okay. Someone that I got to know very well in the course of my work with the Formula One. And Niki Lauda is a genius. He's a technical genius, he's a business genius, and he was also a very big champion of Singapore. And every time he came here, he used to really encourage us to do more and work together with F1 and so on. And I grew to really be fond of him, and he's got that very dry German, Austrian kind of humor and so on. But he's a great guy, and I think he's a big loss to the sporting community.
Thanks for your time, Minister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us in the newsroom.